Hello, my name is Elizabeth Stein. Today I will be talking about the life of Erik Erikson and the theory he developed. Erik Erikson was born in Frankfurt, Germany on June 15, 1902. His mother's name was Carla Abrahamson and his biological father was unknown. His stepfather was Dr. Theodor Homburger. Growing up, Erikson felt like his stepfather never truly accepted him as one of his own children. This caused him to struggle with his identity. When Erikson was 8, he learned that Dr. Theodor Homburger was not his biological father as he was led to believe for all those years. This contributed even more to his identity confusion. After Erikson graduated high school, he moved to Florence to pursue his interest in art and was hoping to make a career out of it. In 1927, he became an art teacher at a school that was started by Dorothy Burlingham and Anna Freud, located in Vienna. The move that Erikson made to Vienna changed his career path. Erikson was working in Vienna and met Anna Freud. After the meeting with her, he decided to move into the field of psychoanalysis. Erikson studied child development at the Vienna Psychoanalytical Institute through the Montessori method that focused on psychosexual and developmental stages. He did not earn a formal degree, but he did earn a certificate. Erikson's knowledge was mainly based on all his real-life experiences and his extensive reading. In 1930, Erikson married a dancer and artist named Joan Serson. The two of them later had 3 children together. In 1933, Erikson moved to the United States with his family. After Erikson moved to the United States, he practiced child psychoanalysis and worked at Harvard. In 1936, Erikson decided to leave Harvard and join the Institute of Human Relations at Yale. During his time at Yale, Erikson conducted a year-long study on Native American children. These studies were used for cultural influences on psychological development. In 1942, Erikson made the move to California. There, he became a professor of psychology at the University of California at Berkeley. Erikson's claim to fame was the 8 stages of development. His theory focuses on personal and social development. Each one of his stages has a central conflict that needs to be solved in order to move on. Success in a stage leads to the next stage of development. Failure in a stage leads to having to deal with a crisis later in life. The stages include trust versus mistrust, autonomy versus shame and doubt, initiative versus guilt, industry versus inferiority, identity versus role confusion, intimacy versus isolation, generativity versus stagnation, and integrity versus despair. Before I go into each stage and take a deeper look at it, I want to talk about Erikson's influence behind his theory. He is strongly influenced by Sigmund Freud, the founder of psychoanalysis. Erikson's theory is an adaptation of Freud's 5 stages of development, and Erikson's theory focuses on the whole lifespan. Stage 1 is trust versus mistrust. This stage takes place from birth to 18 months. It is centered on infants developing a sense of trust from their parents or caregivers and in the world. The infants learn to trust when their needs are met. When babies cry and their parents or caregivers come and take care of them, they are developing a sense of trust. However, when babies cry and their parents or caregivers are inconsistent or neglectful, it develops a sense of mistrust. The mistrust that infants develop when their needs are not met can carry on with them through childhood and into adulthood. Stage 2 is autonomy versus shame and doubt. The age for this stage is 18 months to 3 years old. During this stage, children are learning to communicate better with people and are walking. They no longer want to be totally dependent on their parents or caregivers. They are striving towards their autonomy, which is their independence. Parents who are flexible and give their children the freedom to explore and let them do things on their own while still guiding them help their child develop a sense of autonomy. Parents who are overbearing and strict leave their child feeling powerless with no control. This causes the child to become shameful and doubtful of their own abilities. Stage 3 is initiative versus guilt. The age for this stage is 3 to 6 years. Children are still growing and developing language, gross, and fine motor skills. Children are continuing to make more of their own choices with more control over them. At this stage, children are also starting to begin exploring more of both their social and physical environments. Parents and caregivers can encourage initiative by letting kids make more of their own decisions and letting them explore their environment by running, playing, and jumping. Parents and caregivers who discourage children's initiative make them feel guilty about wanting to explore their natural urges. Stage 4 is industry versus inferiority. This takes place from ages 6 to 12 years old. This is a time in a child's life where their social world gets bigger because of school. The influence of the teachers and friends start to increase more, and the influence of parents begin to decrease. This stage focuses on the sense of pride and good feelings about oneself and their abilities and accomplishments. Failure of this stage creates a negative self-image and a sense of inadequacy that might affect later learning. Stage 5 is identity versus role confusion. This takes place from the ages 12 to 18. This is a time in teenagers' life when they are trying to answer the big question, who am I? Erikson believed the pressure of the future decisions causes a time to question identity to figure out who they are. During this stage, parents' influences continue to decrease, and the friend influence increases. Many teens are doing some personal exploration with sexual, occupational, and educational roles to help answer the who am I question. Success in this stage leads to a sense of role identity, and failure in this stage leads to a sense of confusion about role and their place in life. Stage 6 is intimacy versus isolation. This stage happens during young adulthood and is about forming healthy relationships with others. Young adults in this stage are ready to find new relationships of trust and intimacy, and this relationship should help both people grow. Success in this stage leads to the ability to form committed, lasting, and nurturing relationships with others. Failure in this stage leads to isolation. Stage 7 is generativity versus stagnation. This stage happens during middle adulthood. People in this stage become concerned with what they are contributing to society and what kind of mark they are leaving. Usually, success in this stage comes from raising a family, having a career, or teaching others. Failure in this stage leads to a feeling of no purpose and becoming stagnant and self-absorbed. Stage 8 is the last and final stage and is integrity versus despair. This happens during late adulthood and is about looking back at life and reflecting. Those who look back and have satisfaction with life and accept all their failures and successes develop a sense of integrity and wisdom. Those who don't are left with feelings of bitterness and despair. In 1960, Erikson accepted a job at Harvard as a professor with the title Professor of Human Development. Erikson spent the rest of his life writing and also won a Pulitzer Prize for his work on Gandhi. He died May 12, 1994 in Massachusetts. Erikson's stages of development are still used today in the classroom. Teachers play an important role in influencing child's psychosocial development. It is important to know where students are developmentally and what is needed for them to be successful. This will help ensure success at each stage. There are 3 stages of development children go through during their school career: initiative versus guilt, industry versus inferiority, identity versus role confusion. The stage preschoolers are in is initiative versus guilt. The goal teachers should be trying to achieve is focusing on developing personality of the preschoolers. Teachers can help achieve this by giving students the opportunities to make choices. Just by allowing children to plan their own activities or picking out a book to read can help them feel like they are becoming more independent. Teachers also need to break down given instructions into smaller steps. This makes it easier for the students to succeed and take risks. Teachers should also show students how to fix mistakes. This will help the students be more confident in their abilities and will try again. The stage elementary students are in is industry versus inferiority. Teachers are trying to encourage achievement and peer relations. They can do this by allowing students to set realistic goals for themselves and to go back and look at them every so often and monitor progress. Students should also be given the chance to have jobs assigned to them in class. Not only does it help foster responsibility, but also fosters a sense of accomplishment when the job is done. Teachers should teach study skills to their students. If students fail a test, they might think they are doomed to failure. By giving them the right study tools to succeed, it will help lead to them to success. Lastly, teachers need to provide regular feedback. This goes for all students, but particularly ones who seem discouraged. Middle school through high school students are at the stage of identity versus role confusion. The teacher's goals should be encouraging, building identity, and self-esteem. Teachers can do this by providing a variety of positive role models. This can give students potential identity role models who are positive. Students should also be given models for outstanding work provided by the teacher. This can help them incorporate academic success into their identities, which would help them in their career goals down the road. Another thing is providing opportunities for students to bring in their own interests for projects. This could get the students' interest because they feel like their interests are a vital part to their identities. It is also important to remember to criticize the behavior of the students instead of personal condemnation. Students at this age are trying out different roles, and receiving negative feedback might encourage them to try another role. Lastly, it's important for teachers to be there for their students and encourage and support them in their interests. They can do this by attending plays, musicals, and games. This can help confirm a student's identity as an athlete, musician, or an actor. And here is my bibliography of all my sources I used, and thank you for watching my presentation.